Welcome to a brand new episode of Get Real with Casey Kasem. It's the podcast that takes a look behind the scenes of the fantasy football industry through interviews with some of your favorites in the business. On this episode, I sat down with the one and only Toronto Dave. You can follow Dave on Twitter at TorontoFF8. I had a great conversation with Dave, talking about playing Dynasty fantasy football for the first time, what kind of chicken wings he likes, being a part of the fantasy football community, watching Red Zone all day on Sunday, liking basketball more than we thought he did, being an NFL and fantasy football fan in Canada, and a whole lot more. Dave doesn't put out content, but again, follow him at TorontoFF8 on Twitter/X to talk fantasy football because he's all about that life. You can follow me on Twitter at DKCKasem and the podcast at GetReal_pod. This podcast is a proud member of the DAP Network. Content from me coming out soon with South Harmon FF and Rotoballer. And if you haven't heard, after 13 years, I quit my job and I'm trying to put out content full time. So hopefully y'all will stay with me during this journey and continue the support because it means so much to me. It's a very scary time for me, but to have all of you just having my back and kind of making me feel a little less nervous, I appreciate that so much. One last bit of business. Get Real with Casey Kasem is a finalist for the second year in a row for a Fantasy Sports Writers Association Podcasting Award. 2 years in a row. That's just wow. Thank you so much for all the support. Again, I know I'm going on and on about the support, but I really appreciate all of you. And now, check out this conversation I had with Toronto Dave on Get Real with Casey Kasem. Live, quote unquote live. Toronto Dave is live. That's an exciting thing to say. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm excellent and I'm alive.
That's great news. That's great news, bud. I'm very happy that you could join us today for this journey into the world of Toronto Dave. You guys and gals out there may know Toronto Dave from Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, but we'll get to know him a little bit more as we're going through this episode. I'm back. I went out of the country. I was in Africa. Now we're here. Toronto Dave gets to be my guest on this wonderful journey back to the house. So we're here. And Dave, just for everybody out there that's listening, maybe they don't know who you are. Can you just kind of give a little bit about your fantasy football background and kind of what you're about when it comes to interacting with people and where you like to hang out?
Yeah, so for fantasy football, I guess I'll just skip to jumping in Twitter at the beginning of COVID. I'm sure that's like a very, very common theme. People either going brand new or they ramp up their activity. But yeah, so I got into Twitter with all that, not knowing what the hell it was. I felt it's funny looking back now, I feel like small back then, but the thing is, that's not the case how I feel now if I were in that position back then. But that's how I felt back then, like kind of small, but not in terms of followers, just I guess I don't know. But I would follow as many people as I possibly could. Trying to get the timeline right, but get my thoughts organized. Yeah, so kept progressing in there. I remember when I changed my name. I can't even remember what it was before, but that was a big deal. Like, I'm going to be in the community now, so I'm going to change my name with fantasy football in it, or FF or whatever. And I would think people were like famous if they had a couple thousand followers, like legitimately famous, big time. I was in awe, like scared to interact, but then some really big accounts would interact here and there. But then how it progressed from there was, so I met a really good group of friends that were all friends for a few years now. It's called the Happy Hour Crew because what happened was this guy, John, shout out John, he created this group called Happy Hour. He'd put a link for people to come hang out face to face, just to hang out. So it was a bunch of random collection of people who'd come. I came in there. The group would filter down in and out to what it is today. And then it kind of just stuck for a big core of us for years now. And we talk every day in a big group chat. It's phenomenal. So that's my main home, I guess I would say, is that group. Yeah. But so how I see myself now, I guess, or not see myself, it's how I operate is I like to consume content. I'm not a creator per se, although the word create's very open. But I'm not on a platform. I'm not trying to give advice to people. I just talk. I like to learn. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I like to learn. And there's so many amazing people that love to teach. So I just try to consume content. And I think that gives me takes the edge off if I'm interacting with people in this space, because there's no politics involved. I'm not coming at it with an angle.
Right.
I'm not like, so many people aren't coming with a particular angle, but the fact that I'm not even trying to network or anything, I have no goal, just to be. So I think it's a good foundation for relationships with analysts or content creators and myself, because there's no pressure. There's no nothing. It's just, I'm here to enjoy. I'm not here to get something from you. And right. I think, yeah. So that's how I am. I like to consume content and just learn. Yeah. So I'm very long-winded.
No, me too. Join the club. That's why I started a podcast like this, so somebody else could be long-winded. I'm the worst. So
yeah.
But you're so authentic, I think, because of that angle of not coming from I'm not saying people are not themselves, but I can tell that you're your true self just by meeting you, interacting with you, like right off the bat, So that's awesome, because you interact in chats and see you interact when, live streams are happening and things like that. And it's, I'm always I'll be watching a live stream and then something will come up. Toronto Dave said this, or Toronto Dave asked this, or, and so it's really awesome to see how you've become a part of the community,
I appreciate that. It's like a two-way street. It's like I watch content, but I'm enjoying the content at the same time. So it's not like it's both. And I like how the puzzles fit.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And, you brought up just like the community in general. We're talking about the community, but before the fantasy football thing, before you were involved in Twitter and all of the Hey y'all, I guess this is as good of a time as any to go ahead and put an ad in. An ad? What are those? I don't do ads. Sorry. But I kind of got to promote myself here. Down in the show notes, you'll see a link to my Mercari store. That's right, I'm selling on Mercari again, and I got a lot of really rad stuff. So if you see anything on there that you like, shoot me a message if you want to make a deal. Especially if you're a listener of this show, just let me know you listen. I'll give you a deal. Anyway, check that out. It really supports the show, and it really supports me in this time where I'm trying to get my life together, trying to figure out what's going on. And you don't know how much I appreciate you. So go check that out, help support the show, and we'll get back into this episode with Toronto Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
God for StreamYard.
Yeah.
So my Wi-Fi has been so awesome for months, and I was like, yes. And then it decided that it didn't want to work anymore. So that's what happened, and I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no problem. My Wi-Fi comes in and out too. So,
and I used to plug it in. I used to, I had a big long Ethernet. I was like, but it's so much work to have to go all the way downstairs to plug that thing in every single time, and it's annoying. And I'm just like, whatever. So all good. I do edit more than I say I do. I like to joke that I don't edit these things, but when stuff like that happens, I definitely go in and cut that stuff out. So I don't even remember what I was saying. Did you like football prior to fantasy football?
Good question. Yes, I did. My first thought was Peyton Manning. That's who I liked. And Calvin Johnson back in the day. But I wasn't so into football. My mind was so occupied with other sports like hockey, baseball, whatever. So I was into football, but didn't have so much space for it that I do now. So I did like football, but as an ancillary sport, not at the forefront. It was hockey and baseball were my two. But now it's all shifted to football. Like if there's a pie, like 95% of it's NFL and the other sports are smaller now because when you have, it's hard for me to have space for so much information across all the sports. So if I'm dedicated to football, I don't have the space or for everything else. So it kind of, yeah, that's how it transformed.
Well, that's awesome. Do you have a team that you follow or that you're a big fan of, or are you kind of spread out over all the different teams, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, so I do have a team, Buffalo Bills Mafia.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not a diehard, like crazy passionate, been a fan since I was a little kid. My whole family has been a fan. It's not like that. Although my dad does like the Bills and the Cowboys, but yeah, Bills are my team. Not like a crazy diehard passionate fan, but yeah, absolutely, I support them. They're my team. Seen a handful of games, but Buffalo's only like a couple hours for me, so I've been to a few games.
So you're Toronto, Dave. Everybody can get that. We've already established that. So yes, when you say you're a few hours away, being a Canada fan, a fan of not just of Canada, but of football, being a fan of American football, like how does that work for you? I know you're a few hours away from, being the Bills and everything, but how does being a fan in Canada work out?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like the same. The main difference is I don't think I get a lot of the same sports talk shows as you all get. So I think the analysis or whatever throughout the day could be different. But I have the NFL network, so I watch NFL Live and Total Access, and that's where I get it. But like some of the ESPN stuff is different. But I'm trying to think how that would be the main difference. Like I watch a lot of games, watch the NFL Network a lot. So I think the big difference is the talk around it on ESPN versus here would be different, unless the NFL Network. Yeah.
So, okay, yes, I'm going to ask a little bit more about fantasy in Canada. So, do you see Canada as being a fantasy football kind of area where it's starting to take over like it does in the States, or how is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's big here. Fantasy sports is big here, 100%. And it is getting bigger for sure, but the States is a different animal. Just with how much sports is in the culture. Sports is a big part of the culture here too, but it's not. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking?
Oh gosh, now I lost my train. Whenever somebody says they lost their train of thought, I immediately lose my train of thought. So you're talking about, we're talking about, let's rewind it. We were talking about Canada and the US and the US, being.
Yeah, it is popular here, and it is getting more popular here, but not like the States. It'd be proportional to the culture.
Yeah.
The same wave and the same like aspects or whatever, but it's just on a lower scale. But it is definitely getting way more popular and stuff like that. But in the States, like anywhere, people would know, like at the hotel or like wait staff or like, it's such everybody knows, oh, I play, oh, my wife plays, my husband plays, whatever. And here it's like hit or miss. A friend of a friend may play the type of thing, or they play, like but yeah, definitely it is popular here and it's getting more popular 100%.
Okay, so growing up, were you into sports? Did you play sports, watch a lot? I know we were talking about the fandom and everything, but how was growing up with your relationship in sports?
Yeah, so I played hockey and baseball. I don't. I'm trying to think. Competitively is the term, not like the highest end. So not that, but organized in that I was part of a team in a league and stuff like that. So I played hockey was a huge one. It got to a point for I guess a large part of my playing career, 5-10 years, however long. I was on the ice 3 to 4 times a week, like almost every other day, practicing or a game. So that was intense. And then in the summer was baseball, which was a similar level, maybe a little less and much less intense and much less costly and all those things. So I was pretty active in sports because those two I played organized, I guess. So those were that. And then growing up, like in my childhood, it was the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the hockey team. That was dominated a big part of my childhood. The Blue Jays were a big part too, but the Leafs was a big front and center. Wasn't into basketball at all. I think it's the region because I'm in hockey and baseball. I didn't have room for basketball. I guess I did, but it's so much as it is. And
right.
That hockey and baseball, yeah.
Hockey and baseball. So do you have a favorite player of all time, of all sports? Is there like one guy that you can think of that is number one?
Kobe's probably up there.
Okay.
Like Kobe Bryant for basketball. It's funny, basketball's not even, I didn't.
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought.
I pushed it to the side, but
there you go. But you can spot greatness. So I see it. Yeah.
It's not like I dislike basketball, and I actually like it quite a bit now. It was just didn't have it wasn't at the forefront. So it would be on and Kobe, I would say. It was Kobe and Peyton Manning was, I brought him up, I think, for football. Hockey, Joe Sakic. He was the original that I liked.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Kobe. Okay. Yeah, the hockey talk. See, I don't want to be like, oh, stereotypically you're from Canada, so you're supposed to like hockey, right? But
yeah. No, I do. I was very, very into it growing up, pretty competitively. Played it. I was very much into it, and still am.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome that you were so well versed in so many sports. So, playing fantasy football, how did you stumble across that beast?
Good question. I think it was just like a natural included element of our friend group. Like it was just my main friend group from high school. But I think it started in then. We all like sports, and it just kind of naturally came together. I don't think it was like doesn't feel like such a distinct decision collectively before fantasy football, now fantasy football. Let's all make a decision. It kind of just like happened and don't even know where it started or anything. Yeah.
And then you brought up like the whole pandemic happening and getting on Twitter and finding a community there. How did that come about, and what was that little journey like?
Yeah, so I was always, I guess, loosely on Twitter even back then, but not really. And then I always took it more seriously, but I don't like the word serious. I took it more, I was more into the specifics and trying. My friends, they just love to talk shit. So that was like, fantasy football was just a medium to talk trash. But me, I liked the aspects of it. I liked it. There was like strategy and taking risks here and there, or whatever. There's so much, and psychology. There's so many elements, and I just was drawn to it. But I didn't realize how drawn I was to it or how vast it was. And then you just keep going below the surface. So I had a Twitter account that I would be on rarely, but on. And then I guess once friends not get on with their lives, are more busy with their lives. And then the leagues just kind of dissipate, right? So, and then I still wanted to play, and it was kind of like not a seamless transition, because it was just by the time that era of my fantasy football career was wrapping up, it smoothed right into the time where it was taking off on Twitter. And then I was just loving it, interacting with people on Twitter. And then I'm just like, screw it.
We're going to hope. Okay. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
This is just like, perfect. All right. So anyway, I don't even know what I was asking you about. So
yeah. So I think it's a good time to transition to something else. It gave so much background about we started with the fantasy football background to where we progressed, getting into it today, and then good to move on.
Good to move on. So so you've been a part of the community for a while, and you've been able to do stuff like go to the Fantasy Football Expo, for instance. And I know that a lot of people listening to this have gone, and a lot of people listening to this haven't gone. So do you want to kind of share your experience with attending the Fantasy Football Expo?
Yeah, I loved it. I love it so much. I guess it's different from my perspective versus people trying to make it more in the industry type of thing. But it was just such a happy, joyous experience for me. It's just so happy. It's such a good time. Like I like seeing, what's it called? I like to be social with so many people. So it's like a perfect setting for me to just go talk to everybody. And there's definitely an air of community because we're all there for the same thing. So there's very little judgment, I found. We're just all there. We're all there together, having a good time, talking about fantasy football. That's how I felt.
Yeah, it's a perfect little group of just like minds. Like, we might not all have the same opinions on players or leagues or any of that stuff, but when we're all together, just kind of enjoying the same thing, it's super dope to see. So it was really nice seeing you there and seeing you interact with people. And, I had like Russ Fisher, my homie Outhouse, over there saying like, you see Dave's over there. And, it was just like a lot of fun to be able to interact with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And likewise. And you were on the panel, or you were one of the panels. That was awesome.
Yeah, I try every now and then to get on a panel and hope people will want to listen to me.
People do want to listen to you very much.
Well, I appreciate this, you saying that, but this is a show about you, not about me. We're giving you the spotlight here. So, so with the expo, you brought up the panels and everything, and like just sitting in and watching and listening to panels and getting to interact that way. What kind of a feeling do you get from being able to see that in person?
Proud of you all. Proud of everybody on the panels. It was really cool to see. Yeah, it was just a lot of things were so new or unfamiliar, and a lot of things were changing. So I was just trying to get my footing even as a fan, trying to where to go to the panels and what to do and what other people are doing and what's my plan of attack and stuff like this. So it was almost like equal parts, or there were multiple parts. One was enjoying everything and just seeing people up on the panel is just so cool. And it was just, it was a mix between trying to get my footing and being along in the flow of it all versus taking stuff in, what people are saying and what's happening. So, but yeah, that was even fun. Navigating it's even fun because other people are trying to do the same.
Yeah,
so we're doing it together. So it's
we're all learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming for people. It can be a bit much, especially if you think about it before you've actually gone. It can seem like it might be overwhelming, but how did you go into it? What was your mindset going into it?
Great question. What was my mindset going into it? So I've been there twice. The first time I went, my mental state was different than it is now. So I was so focused on the logistics of it all, which I still get a lot of anxiety over logistics. That's a thing, I guess, an anxiety provocation for me. But I was just so focused on traveling and staying and kind of making sure I'm all right. Like it wasn't such the expo itself was one thing, but it was all of it. So it was I guess the anxiety for that was the logistics part. So it wasn't so much the social aspects of it all, because I like talking to people.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. Like anxiety is present, but what causes the anxiety for me at the expo didn't feel the same as everybody else per se. Like seeing big groups of people talking and having fun, I love it. I love it so much. That's my element, so to speak. So, even though sometimes I'll shut down or whatever, but that seemed like a big thing that made people anxious, was just being in the crowds and not knowing what to do and stuff. But that part I find it exciting. It's anxiety provoking, but I found it very exciting and thrilling. So I feel like I had that aspect going for me in terms of making it more manageable, the social side of it. Mindset. So that was the first, my first time was the second year of it. So that was my mindset. It was just the anxiety over the logistics and just kind of excited to go. I was just proud of myself for going. A lot of things that kind of weren't directly in the expo itself. So it was like a lot of things around it. Last year, or this past year, was much, much, much different. Much different. So like, I just wanted to get the most out of it while I was in there. Focused on what I like, which panels or draft rooms I was going, and out to eat with this group of people or them. And I was so much more involved in the minutia, I guess, is the what was actually happening. I was much more involved with that. So my mindset was just, so I think it's a good time. I had some tools I had to make my experience easier. Mm-hmm. Sometimes finding the words is hard, but yeah. So I had some good tools. So what I did was, I stayed in a hotel room by myself, so I had that privacy. And every time I left the room, I would say to myself, I'm here to have fun. So try to have fun. And then when you do that, so much stress and every other anxiety is mitigated. So I just had to remind myself, I'm not here for anything just to have a good time. It's a social thing. It's like a vacation. I'm choosing to come here to spend time on vacation. Other people could be elements of business and stuff like that. For me and for a lot of my friends there, it was social. So just keep reminding myself to have fun, and drink water. That was the other thing.
That's a good piece of advice. I missed out on the whole Sunday one year because I had a bit of an issue with, yeah.
So those were those two little reminders, and go with the flow. And that just made my experience so much easier.
Yeah, I totally get that, because the first year I went into it and I was going through stuff and had a mindset where poor me, right? Oh, poor me. But really, like, I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So yeah, telling yourself, yeah, exactly. We're all there for the same reason. We're trying to have fun. I get it. Some people are there to network. I am included in that. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to have a good time while we're there. So good to see that change in you where you could tell yourself that. That's awesome. And I know you like talking to people and when I saw you, I was even talking to Russ. I was like, I don't know, should I go up to him? I don't really know. I'm like, I don't know if I should go up to, certain people and then actually, because you don't know how a person interacts, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I see you over there and I'm like, should I go over there? And it's just one of those things with like whenever I see a person by themselves or like with a, small group, I'm like, should I go over there and say hi or, maybe later, maybe. So I get that kind of like, just, oh my God, I know you from the internet kind of thing.
Yeah. I love it so much. It's like, if someone comes up to me to say hello, it's a sign of respect. That's how I take it.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, what's going on? Like,
right.
If someone's coming to me or to you or to anybody for choosing to interact with you from kind of like just choosing, and then it's like there's mutual respect there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I like that, and I like the fact that you were bringing up content and how much content that you like to take in and to learn from others. What kind of content, when you're looking for the ideal podcast or the ideal article or the ideal whatever that you're taking in, what do you look for in that type of content?
Different things. There's no one overarching thing that I have to have every time. I appreciate things for what they are, and so to get there's a few different types of content that I like. There's this more serious stuff, like heavy into trying to do the best, like really into the details and the more serious aspects of it. So there's those types of podcasts or shows or whatever. So, and then there's ones that are just ridiculous fun, like the open bar podcast and stuff. Right. So
yeah.
Right.
Hard eyes,
Right.
I will support those guys because
Yeah. So there's different shows that serve different purposes, and I value multiple different aspects. Like I find it hard for a show to have excel at both at the same time and have that be both their strengths. Not to say that people don't have both, they do, but the way I see it is if there's a focus, I go to the shows that have a focus on the serious stuff because I want to learn and I want to get better. I want to get updated on the markets and stuff like that. I want to be up to date. I want to refine my thinking, and then I have my avenues for that. And then for the silly stuff, there's avenues for that as well. So I guess that's how it is. It's not like I only do the serious and only do the fun or only do shows that have both. It's, I guess when I'm trying to learn and get better and think, I have my channels or whatever that I go to for that. But people that make jokes and stuff like that all the time, and I'm in that mood, I'll watch those shows. It's like when you're watching TV, you want to put on a comedy, you want to put on I don't know, a drama or mystery thing. It's like changing the channel to what I want to put on.
See? Yes. And I think I like that because I think a lot of people think you have to do things a certain way and only one way works, but there's different flavors for different people and everybody likes different stuff. So really cool that you pointed that out because sometimes you're in the mood to, get a little bit of fantasy content and a lot of laughs. And then sometimes you want to get to the point and get all the information right there. So
yeah.
Totally makes sense. So do you ever, I know that I've heard you and seen you on podcasts. Do you guest on people's podcasts or how does that go with you?
Rarely, if ever anymore, there was a time where I was getting my footing within the community. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what, like, in terms of being on shows or being not on shows type of thing. So there was a time where I kind of put myself out there and would be on shows here and there. Not many. I made a couple appearances on Front Yard Fantasy. I love that so much, but no, not really. If someone asks me, yeah, like I'm not looking for it. I'm not asking for it. I'm not like putting my name on a list
right.
But more than happy if someone wants me to have on and they request me, or not request, they ask me to come on. It's like, to me, that's the same thing. It's a sign of respect. So I'll do that and love it. And it's just happy to have that, but I don't go looking for it. And it's not a big part of my thing.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just fun to chop it up with people and just talk fantasy football, and to be able to do that is awesome. I know when I was not putting out content at all, I was just hopping on with people when I first got into the community and kind of just seeing how things were and just having fun and not really worrying about people taking me too seriously, So totally
exactly.
get that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fantasy football, is that the only fantasy sport you play, or are there other fantasy sports you play as well?
It's the only fantasy sport I played. I did dabble in fantasy basketball. Fantasy basketball I played before fantasy football, and I wasn't even into basketball really.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're more into basketball than
I guess so. I guess I just really like sports. So
yeah.
In a general sense, I love basketball. I love it. But relatively or comparatively, it's hard to have full passion for all the sports all the time.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it was, I guess, just the neighborhood kids were in basketball fantasy and they asked me to be in it. And I did. And then I had another close friend or two that were really into basketball and fantasy basketball. So, but that was just like a year, maybe 2 years. And then in the mix of it all, I did a year or two of fantasy hockey. I don't even remember it really.
I probably forget all about it after I played it because I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, it almost feels like a dream. It was so not random, but like insignificant to my mental, like what's absorbed. It barely feels like it happened. But yeah, definitely a year or two of that. But fantasy football straight for several years now, and that's it.
And when you play fantasy football, what is your ideal type of league? Like, what do you like to? Yeah, go. I know you're excited about that.
Dynasty Superflex is the way to go. That I go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So are you in a lot of leagues, or are you in a few leagues? How is that league? League scheduling?
So I'm in 5 Dynasty leagues. Been playing Dynasty for 3 or 4 years now, and 5 is great for me. I'm very happy with it. This year, I really tried to limit my redraft leagues. Not that I dislike redraft. I really like it. I play in a handful of redraft leagues. But when that got up to higher, when there was just as many redraft and Dynasty, it was really hard for me to switch my mindset between the two.
Yeah.
It's a completely different way of thinking for me. So that was just challenging. So I said, you know what, I got to really just cut down the redraft as much as I possibly can. So I did 5 Dynasty and only managed to do 2 redraft leagues. One being the Scott Fish Bowl, shout out Scott Fish and the Scott Fish Bowl.
Yep.
And one other league with my group of friends that I mentioned really or at the beginning of the episode with my with John and the Happy Hour crew and those people. So those 2 redraft and 5 Dynasty and I was set. And it's quite a bit of leagues for me. But yeah, Dynasty primarily I'll do the Scott Fish Bowl because that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
So and then my friends redraft league with my main group of social circles. So that, and I was very happy with that. It's hard turning down leagues here and there, or not looking for leagues with friends and stuff like that. But it was great. I was very satisfied.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a nice number of leagues. Like I finally cut it down to a nice, 3 dynasty. Maybe I joined a keeper league this year because I was forced into it, but like that kind of stuff. But yeah, the Scott Fishbowl has been around forever, and to see it grow and grow every year has been so awesome. And for people who don't know what the Scott Fishbowl is, they need to go check it out. Go Google that. Go scottfishbowl.com. I'm promoting my good friend Scott Fish's awesome charity league. But for real, if you don't know what the Scott Fish Bowl is, this is a little advertisement, I guess. But yeah, I mean, everybody that comes on here and talks about playing in it always has such wonderful things to say. Being a part of it, how many years have you been a part of it? And do you have a favorite memory or something that has happened while you've been playing in the Scott Fish Bowl?
I can't remember if I've done 2 or 3. Favorite memory was one of the group chats for the pick slot that we had. I can't remember what it was, like 102, 10 this, whatever. And in the group chat, there was Matthew Berry was in it, and he would chime in here and there. And a basketball player was in it too. I forget his name. But that was really exciting for me. And just how everybody's so excited and so happy and excited for it. That was fun. So I guess some stars in the group chat was a big deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is so awesome to see, though. Like, yeah, we had Tom Everett Scott, and then I got him to come on my podcast. So it's like,
right,
hey,
right,
the crazy stuff that happens, the stuff that happens in chats, like you said, getting to meet people and talk with people, and that's super awesome. And that it keeps growing every year, more and more big, quote unquote, big names.
Yeah,
grab a spot in the Scott Fish Bowl. It's pretty rad to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And just what it is at its core, what's the fact that the Scott Fish Bowl being present makes me proud to be part of the community. Mm-hmm. Like I look at it, we all look at it so highly as a well-deserved, and it's just like, it's like the crown of the community, and it just makes me like, yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It makes you feel so good to see that, that this community of people they're good. There's good, and we're like a good group and good hearts and willing to help each other out. And it's just been awesome. And you were talking about being in, chats with people for that, have followed on Twitter, and people that follow you, and just having that community. And it's funny talking to people outside of the Twitter fantasy football community, or just the fantasy football community in general, because they don't get it. Mm-hmm. You're like trying to explain, like I have a group of friends that are on the internet that I can talk to about things, and they listen and they give me advice and they help me out. Like, how do you wrap your brain around something like that?
Yeah, great question. Because that's something I've been really grappling with pretty consistently since the first or second expo I went to. So for a while, and I guess it's still there, like an element of feeling embarrassed about it, that my friends I met through the internet, and I spend so much time, not so much time, that the big part of my social life is friends I met on the internet, through the internet, interacting with you, watching shows. It's just, I guess, like if I were to explain to people this, it's hard for people to understand, as you were saying.
Yeah.
But it's like, it feels embarrassing still a little bit. Not as much anymore, but it's been for a while, right? Like,
yeah, no, I get it.
Like, oh, you're flying to Canton, Ohio for a fantasy football conference. Like, I would have never, ever, ever guessed it was me, or like guessed I would be a part of that. But
yeah.
and it's hard to explain too. But now I almost don't care about that part of embarrassment anymore. It's just, I enjoy it so much. This is a big part of my life. It's just part of me, so.
I get that. When I, like, my first go at like being on message boards and stuff and talking to people when like the internet was first created, right now, but like, talking to people and like having people come and visit me that, or whatever, just like being like, oh, you live in this town and I live in that town. I'm an adult. So, I can make my own decisions if I want to hang out with this person, but it's just interesting. And also, how do you know this person? And I don't want to be like, well, I met them on a message board, but like, that is what happened,
Right.
So.
And the relationships are real.
Yeah.
They're real. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool to kind of go to like the expo and see everybody in person and just kind of put like, oh, you're tall, or, oh, like Toronto Dave, look at him dressed all snazzy over there, like,
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of people that came up to you and told you that you were a snazzy dresser during the expo.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny. The first expo, it was a weird time in my state of mind. So I was like the flashiest as I could possibly be. And then the second expo was just, I still dressed a certain way, or I like to dress there a certain way, I guess, but it was just a completely different experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like, yeah, I had Hoove on here now. That's a snazzy dressed individual, if I should, so we all get to see everybody's outfits. Like, LQ has some shirts that are pretty jazzy, and everybody, yeah, it's a time for us to like have fun, though. So it's really cool to be able to see everybody.
And you know what it is? Like, I think the first year I was just kind of experimenting too with how I'm going to be in this group for the first time.
Right.
And maybe I was trying too hard, I would say, even though if it doesn't come out that way, but in my mind, that's how it felt.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but that's how it was.
And it's let's go back to talking about drafts, because you had brought up, we were talking about the Scott Fish Bowl and everything, and they do live drafts. And have you done a live draft, not just for the Scott Fish Bowl, but like in general, have you done a live in-person draft before?
Only way back before I was in the Twitter community. It's now that brings me back to memories. We're all sitting around a table we each have our laptops. I remember some people were on their phones, and I'm like, how can you see on your phones? I need to have this up and this up and this up. And it would just be like a big table, and then all of us sitting around with laptops. So but that hasn't been around, or I haven't done that in a long time.
Well, it sounds like you might need to start doing that again. That sounds like another fun. We'll have to figure something out. We'll have to figure something out, because they are so fun. I don't know.
The best.
They're the best.
I'm like giddy thinking about it 10 years ago.
Right. It's so, yeah, when my home league stopped doing it for like when COVID hit and then everybody moved and everything, we stopped doing it. And I was like, oh my God, I miss it so much. They might not. They're like, great, we get this done in, an hour instead of 5. But I'm like, I don't want it to take 5 hours.
Right.
So when you draft, do you have a preference on like doing a slow draft, or do you like doing fast drafts, or does it matter?
I guess slower draft is what I like now, but I'm thinking back then when it was fast drafts, when everybody's in the same room together and it's a fast draft and everybody's panicking.
Chaos.
And that's hectic, and that was friggin' incredible. So I was gonna, like, my inclination is to say slow drafts now, which it is slow drafts I prefer now, but now I just want to do a fast redraft, like just to get the blood pumping.
Yeah, mix it up again, old school coming back, so I like it. And with Dynasty, because Dynasty, some people get a little scared because like there's trading like more involved than you would in a redraft league, and there's a lot more to it when it comes to that, and like drafting, like the rookie drafts and everything else. What are your thoughts on trading? Are you a big fan of trading? Do you do it often? Do you not get it done enough? Or how do you feel about all that?
Big fan of trading. Love it. It's I'm saying I love it, but it's easier to say that I love it in theory than it is in practice, because getting trades completed can be very difficult.
Yeah.
But I would say I make a ton of trades and I love trading. Big fan. Very big supporter of that. And I do think I make quite a bit of trades, but I'm just saying from the mindset, it's easier for me to say I love trading. I love trading. Putting into practice is another thing, which is quite challenging. But yeah, big trader.
And when you first started playing Dynasty, was there something that like you had to kind of get over, something that was maybe completely different than your redraft mindset? What was the one thing you can think of?
I don't know. It's a good question. I could only speak from my experience, and it was a whole new world to me, and I wanted to learn.
Yeah. Okay. Going
And it was
into it with
fun.
that kind of
Right,
mindset.
right. So that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
It was more fascinating for me than it was kind of like anything else. I was just very fascinated and intrigued by it, and wanted to get more into it. And as I get more into it, it opens up new boxes here and there. And but if there's something challenging, it's the fear of the unknown. That's the big thing. And the thing is, you keep your team year to year, so there's more at stake. So I guess the one thing is being okay with failure and uncertainty, and just don't have such high expectations of anything, and don't even have any expectations. Just go and see how it is.
Yeah.
And just be okay with anything. Just focus on what you want. And if you're putting pressure on yourself or what you're trying to do, it's a lot of uncertainty and intimidation and stuff like that, but you kind of just got to jump in and be okay with whatever happens. And there's people going to help you.
Yeah.
So lean on them. I know a big tip would be, because trading can be scary and intimidating and impactful on your team, run by trades with other people that you trust. That seems to be such a big thing, that people have like one person or a couple people they really bounce off trade offers with. And that seems to be really helpful for a lot of people. So that's what I would say for that. But just being okay with what happens. Don't try to have such expectations this way or that way. And if you don't know something, you're not supposed to know it. They're like, right. So like, kind of just go with it and go with the flow, but go with it and just try to learn and have fun with it. But a lot of pressure, I guess, could be self-induced, but it makes sense that there is pressure to try to do well. And it can be embarrassing if I make a bad trade here and there, especially at the beginning. One team, I guess two teams, I put in, so I made a few really, really bad trades that set my teams back so bad. But now, like, that needed to happen.
Yeah.
It needed to happen. And now where I am now is not where I was before, but I've never even thought I would be where I am now. You just got to go with it and don't have expectations, and you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. Big mistake guy over here. So it happens. It's like, kind of don't fight it and just let it be.
Let it be. Yeah. Yeah. Some of us are still rebuilding teams that they drafted, like trying to figure out, okay, well, it didn't work this year. Let me rebuild. Oh, it's still not working. Okay. So it's trial and error. But once you start getting the hang of it, like, I wish I would have had somebody tell me, like, hey, go into it like you're learning and you're learning new things. And it's, just, you're not going to know unless you try. So,
right.
And I know some people just don't like it, and that's cool too. I'm not trying to force that. I was for the longest time like, didn't play Dynasty. It's not the end of the
Yeah.
world. Redraft is awesome as well. I love both. Love them both. You can never have too much fantasy football.
Play what you want to play.
Exactly. Play what you want to play, whatever settings you like, and so on and so. Is there any kind of setting that you don't like?
I guess it's more that I it's funny. I have a pretty specific set of what I like 12 team, Dynasty, Superflex, this and that. Like, so I guess have a pretty specific set that I like. And if it's outside of that, then I put my hands up type of thing. If you go to 14 teams or 10 teams, not 12. If it's not 12, I'm not in type of thing. I don't mean that such like a hard stance, but it's if that's not what I want, and if it's not Dynasty or not Superflex, or Superflex would be a big one. If it's not, but I could see fun and different strategy with not that. But it's, I guess, 12 team Superflex is a
nice gold standard right
there.
Nice what you're looking for. That's the type of league that you're about. So I get it. I have certain ones I like as well, and like certain leagues that have better settings than other leagues, but we won't name names on those leagues because some of them are ran by the same guy. So hey, he'll listen. I know he will. Okay, regular football, just watching actual football. How is watching football with Toronto Dave? Like, what is your Sunday like if you were watching football? How would being in a room with you be like?
So I guess it's excitement and joy from the moment I wake up. and it's so what I would do is, as soon as I wake up, put on NFL Network or any pregame stuff. There's stuff going on from like 9 a.m. or whatever, even if it's just Good Morning Football or so, that on the TV. And then Red Zone all day on the laptop. So what I do is I have Red Zone on my laptop and I one game on the TV in the background.
Oh, wow.
Usually the Bills I would have when they're playing.
Okay.
And then I have Red Zone here. I would pay attention to Red Zone, but it's nice to have just one solid game in its entire, not even if not start to finish, in its wholeness on the TV. So it's like a real football game. I like that. And then I get the highlights on the Red Zone. So that's what I do. And then something's in the oven all day, like whatever it is, probably chicken wings.
Chicken wings.
Yeah, but it's Red Zone on the laptop, game on the TV, and I'm just walking around the kitchen eating, and that's my day.
Do you have a favorite type of wing? Is there a flavor or certain place or a certain brand that you like?
Buffalo wings. I'd say Buffalo wings are my favorite. Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Are you a drums, flats? Doesn't matter.
Big time flats.
Okay.
Like hard flats. But yeah.
Okay. There we go. I feel like I change. Like sometimes I'll be one, and then I'm like, oh no. But they're all good, whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you play fantasy football, do you let your allegiance to the Bills hinder you any when you're setting a lineup or drafting or any of that stuff?
Doesn't even cross my mind. And I guess it's different for me. Because I'm not such a die-hard, like passionate fan. I don't feel it. I don't feel the decision as much or the elements interacting as much. So I don't even think about it. It's not like I want them to have on my team. I don't want them to be on my team or any other way. It's just not even in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and I say that too, but then people will be like, well, you have a lot of Dallas Cowboys on your roster. And I'm like, but they put up fantasy points. What do you want from me? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's good. It's a good excuse. Sure. But yeah, fantasy football, the community, you being a part of the community, super awesome. Like, I know that there are people out there listening to this that are on the outside that kind of looking in and wanting to be a part of the fantasy football community. But like, what's the easiest way for somebody to just get out there and figure it out.
Interact with people and put yourself out there. For me, the way that I did it, I guess, would just follow people on Twitter and comment on their posts and like their stuff. And if I watch their shows on YouTube, just interact with them. If they want, like if they're doing trade start sit and you have a start sit question, put it in the chat and see what they say and just interact with people and don't like, it's a tough, like between forcing yourself to do things versus just naturally wanting, like doing them. So it's just because where it goes into my mind now is if you're like forcing behaviors with such intention, it almost feels a little bit less organic, but that's not necessarily the case. But I just mean, just follow people on Twitter, interact with them, comment, watch the shows, comment, and you'll find this is a good one. Once you do that more, you'll develop relationships with certain people, and then once you have that element of, I guess, safety with one person within the community, then you don't feel like such an outcast per se. Mm-hmm. And then work your way to forming relationships that way. It's really hard to say when it just happens.
Yeah.
Like it just happens. So
and the content creators that are putting out this content, it means the world to them when, it means the world to me when somebody says something to me about my podcast, because it's like, we're putting in our time and our effort and we're putting in all this love. We obviously stand behind what we're putting out, and to have other people recognize that is worth more than, a monetary or, just getting somebody just saying, I appreciate what you do. Just like make somebody's entire day, year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just sorry.
No, I was going to say, and I know that we're talking about respect and everything and how that shows. Yeah. It's just like and the people, I just get all tingly about this. I just get so like lovey-dovey about people because it's just so cool to see how people interact and how like, I've got friends because they listen to my podcast, and I've got friends because I listen to their podcast. And it's like, it's just a fun little world we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when you said respect, I smiled because that's exactly where I was going to in terms of if you show people respect, you're more likely to get it back.
Yeah.
And I know when I was first getting into the community, talking if other people are getting into it now and how to navigate that. When I was first getting into the community, I would be like starstruck by literally everybody and treat people like celebrities. Even if they are celebrities, so to speak, they're still human. People are human. So just approach it with respect and the human element of it. And don't forget those elements, and you'll be good.
100%. Toronto Dave is definitely a person you should be following on social media. So Dave, I just wanted to say thank you again for coming on the show. We're going to go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and what all you got going on.
Yeah. So I'm just even double checking my Twitter handle at Toronto FF8. And the FF, see, I didn't know what to put my handle was when I decided to jump into the community.
Yeah.
So I put Toronto and FF in it, and 8 was my favorite number. So
boom.
Yeah. And that's it. I don't make content. I don't do anything on any platform. So follow Casey Kasem, as I'm sure you already are if you're listening to this.
Dave, thank you.
I don't have anything to promote, just here to have fun. And thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed this. I feel like we got our comfort level way better as the time went on.
Yeah, we did. We had to get over a couple of hiccups and get rolling. That's how it always is. I'm glad you noticed that every time I do a podcast, I swear, like I get comfortable, but like it takes a minute, so it's very stiff at first and then it gets a lot more relaxed. So you can probably tell if you listen to any of the other episodes of this podcast. That's just kind of how I roll. So
yeah.
Well, thank you again. Everybody, please go follow Dave. He's a super awesome guy, and I'm sure that he'd love to talk fantasy football with you. So, again, do that. Listen to whatever other episodes you want to after this one, but let Dave know that you listened to this one. And make sure that you come back next week for another episode of Get Real with Casey Kasem. And remember to stay rad.
Get real. Time to get real, everybody.